All right, they see me rolling here. TexAgs Rewind. It is the birthday girl, Kay Nagley here. 21.
A lot of years.
A lot of years.
Let's
do
Feels
some math.
like it.
21 years ago, I was 25 years old.
Okay.
I think I was working for the Dallas Mavericks.
Pretty good spot to be at 25.
Yeah, that's when Dirk and Steve were like doing their thing.
Heck yeah, look at you.
And you were just born.
Yeah, I was a non-factor at that point.
And this fast forward then 10 years. I mean, from 0 to 10. 10 years later, I would have been 36. I think I would have been learning fatherhood with the twins.
Wow, okay. And I was still running around.
Yeah. And then here we are. Now you're like my boss here at TexAgs.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Boss you around all day.
What was your favorite part of the show? The Brawny fitness talk or?
I always do enjoy fitness talk because I'm a little gym junkie myself. I always love John Harris. He's great. OB always does a great job. Makes you laugh. So.
How about the music today? Were you
it was a little somber, but I like it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of in the peppy mood today, but low key, it was calming me. It was
what
nice.
music would you have picked for your birthday if I allowed you to be the DJ?
I don't know. Don't let me into that because you won't know any of the songs.
Just tell me what kind of music. Like what station would I find it on? Candy?
I don't listen to stations. That's the thing. Kids now don't listen to stations.
Okay. What playlist on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever?
Probably just like the top hits one. I don't know. I'm pretty basic, but I do like some good old Texas country. So.
Name a band or two. I want to know if I know who they are.
I would say Drake would probably be high on the list.
Okay.
I've been listening to Taylor Swift's new album a lot.
Okay.
And that's just, whatever. Who else? See, I listen to a lot of gym music, so like Lil Baby.
Little Baby.
You know who that is?
Yeah. Has he grown yet? Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Who's better, Little Baby or Da Baby?
I like Little Baby.
Are
but
they related
I think
at
we've
all?
I think we've lost all our viewers right now.
Yeah,
because they have no idea.
Back to
what we're
Ryan
talking
Bingham
about.
and country music here on TexAgs Radio. No, so on the show, we did celebrate Kay's birthday, kind of. Go Hour, games to watch. John Harris, he's awesome. You left out our friend, our colleague, Logan Lee.
I did leave out Logan.
He was
I'm
awesome.
sorry, Logan.
Yeah, and then we had Ryan Bruaninger on the show, recruiting country. It's TexAgs Rewind. OB, can we do some games that you want to see this weekend?
There's not a whole lot of them that I want to see, actually. I just looking at all the Power 5 championship games, and Clemson and North Carolina, two teams that stumbled into the losses. They're coming into the game. Clemson gave away a game to South Carolina. North Carolina basically gave away a game to NC State. The winner, though, wins the ACC championship. And does anybody really care who the ACC champion is?
Nope. Nobody cares.
Not this year,
no.
Then Purdue, number 3, I guess it's now number 2, Michigan. I guess it could be interesting if Michigan is still celebrating the win over Ohio State. But if Michigan loses, don't you think they're still in the playoff?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so not even that. Purdue backed in to the championship game because Iowa lost to Nebraska. Oh, my. So that's pretty heinous. LSU in the SEC championship game against Georgia.
A game is not as cool as it's more cool for Aggie fans, but I'm saying outside of Texas A&M, LSU's lost a little luster.
Who does A&M fans want to see? If Georgia wins, you continue to laugh. But you mentioned LSU. If they win, you've beaten the conference champion.
I have a different philosophy with that. My philosophy is I don't want somebody else to have a new toy. So Brian Kelly doesn't have that toy yet. I don't mind.
I'm with you.
I don't want him to get that toy. I want Jimbo to be the next guy to get a new toy, not anybody else. And Kirby's already done it.
Yeah, and I kind of like Georgia. They're, they
A&M-ish.
Well, they're not as offensive yet, but I'm sure as they get more and more success, their fan base will venture more into debaggery. But as of now, I don't have a problem rooting for Georgia. But now here's a game that I would want to see: Kansas State versus TCU in the Big 12 championship game.
Do you want to see TCU win?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're. I'd like to see some new teams in the playoff, and they weren't very good last year, and now look at them, maybe getting into the playoff. They're playing for the championship against a team they've already beaten. They beat Kansas State by 10 points, but they were down 28-17 in that game.
Right.
Another one of those games they rallied to win, so that could be an interesting game. And then Friday night, the Pac-12 championship game, Utah at USC. Utah beat USC earlier this year. They beat them, I think it was like 34-33, something. It was about 1 point in a game they rallied. So that's a big game for a conference championship. But USC needs to win to stay in the playoff. If USC wins, they'll be in the playoff, probably play in Georgia.
Yep. When you think of Antonio Johnson, how do you see him at the pro level?
I think he's a very interesting fit at the pro level because of this. He plays a position, or can play a position, that is now becoming more important in the NFL than a lot of other positions. He plays kind of that nickel linebacker safety hybrid that is very interesting on sub package downs, third down in sub packages. First and second down, he can kind of play around the box. I mean, we saw it here with Jalen Petrie. Jalen Petrie came out of Baylor, and he was a very similar kind of player. Now, I do think there's a few differences. I think Antonio's got a little bit more linebacker in him, and Jalen's got maybe a little bit more safety in him. But still, what you can do with Antonio, I think, becomes very intriguing for NFL defenses. When you think about teams now in the NFL, it's funny how things sort of kind of flip back a little bit. Teams now are going to a little bit more run game. Like, all right, you're going to drop 27 down in the box. All right, we're going to run against you. But the defense is saying that's okay because Antonio plays like a linebacker, so we're good with him being there. So you can take a chess piece like Antonio Johnson and you can move him to a lot of different spots on the defense, first, second, third down. And it becomes very important for an offense to understand what role he has and what he's going to do on that play. Do we have to count for him in the run protection? Is that really 5 in the box or is it 6 in the box? Are we treating him as a linebacker? Are we treating him as a safety? And then he's got decent enough cover skills. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you he throws a blanket over receivers covering, but I think he can be effective covering tight ends and some bigger receivers when they go inside. And we're seeing a lot more of that in the NFL, which is commonplace in college, to put a bigger receiver in the slot and see if you can get him matched up on a safety. But Antonio can handle some of that. I felt like at the beginning of the year, he was trying to do too much. He was not tackling well. He's throwing his shoulder into guys. I felt like it wasn't quite there. And obviously he's trying to fit into DJ Durkin's defense, which is a new look. So I actually think Antonio Johnson's value going to the NFL might be higher given A, where he ends up, and B, how that NFL defense can use him. And I think I'm not saying that he's Derwin James, but the way that the Chargers use Derwin James, I think a defense could use Antonio Johnson, and that could get very, very interesting. Now, again, I think Derwin's got more safety in him. Jalen Petrie's got more safety in him. I think Antonio's got a little bit more of a linebacker thought. That's just me watching him. But that type of player is that much more important in the league because of all the 11 personnel, all the 10 personnel that we're seeing in the league. And that guy has got to be able to do a lot of different things and a lot of different downs. And I think Antonio can do that eventually. And I think you're right, David. I think he ends up being somewhere between 25 to 35, which puts him at the back end of the first, beginning of the second. So I think that's where a team will say, you know what, we can take him just like Petrie. Petrie went 37, I think. It was 37 to us. That's about where I think he would end up going because you know how it goes. Quarterbacks are going to push some guys down. There are going to be some surprises that get in there. And then you got to have your elite defensive interior and edge guys. That's probably going to push somebody like Antonio down. Where that's not a bad thing is, if you think about who's picking between 25 and 32, oh my God, he might end up with the Buffalo Bills. He might end up with the Kansas City Chiefs. Holy smokes. I mean, that's not a bad thing for a player. Yeah, they want to be all top 10 picks, but you end up from 25 to 32, you can end up in a really good spot. And I think that's what could ultimately happen to Antonio for sure.
No, I don't think that'll be that big of a talking point if they can take care of business against SMU, against Boise State, against who are their next 4 games? I wish I had the schedule in front of me. If they can win these next 4 games, if they can win 3 out of the next 4 games, then I don't think the Colorado game even becomes a talking point. People can point to it and mention it, but I think it'll get shot down fairly quickly. One, because Colorado, while they lost to Grambling State, they bounced back and beat Tennessee at Tennessee, and that was a number 11 team at the time. And so it's not as if Colorado is just a really bad basketball team. They've played good basketball this year already. They've beaten a good team already. And so all of that will get washed out if A&M can handle their business in non-conference and then do their thing in conference. If they are a bubble team, man, I don't see this team being a bubble team, to be honest. And maybe that's why I'm not as worried about it right now, is because I don't see them being a bubble team. I see this team being a team that is right in there, right in the mix, and is going to be an automatic bid. I don't see them being a bubble team right now.
Logan, here's their schedule. SMU tonight, obviously. Boise State, Oregon State, at Memphis, then Wofford. So that's their next little stretch.
That's it. So SMU, I think they can get a win. SMU is they're averaging more turnovers than assists. They're getting out rebounded by their opponents. They have trouble shooting the three ball. They have two really good guards that are scoring 50% of their points, that are accounting for more than 50% of their assists, more than 50% of their steals, I believe. Like, I can't. I'm just trying to regurgitate some numbers that I was looking at. And they have a roster that basically plays six guys. There are six guys that are playing the majority of the minutes. And so if A&M can get out and run and push the tempo and create turnovers, because obviously SMU is turning the ball over, and so and A&M does a really good job of turning teams over. If they can multiply those and get easy buckets and increase the pace of the game, this falls in A&M's hands solely. Like, it is there if they can just do what they are built to do and what Buzz has built the foundation of this program on, which is defense, turnovers, and then getting out and running and scoring easy baskets. They should be okay. If they do that, it catapults them into Boise State, into Oregon State, at Memphis. At Memphis is going to be really tough. But it's just catapulting them into a good spot to be able to possibly get 4 out of the next 4. And if that's the case, they're going to be rolling straight into conference.
Yes, sir. Hey, so why do you think, and maybe there's nothing to read into this, but why do you think it took Boots a little while to get going?
Because I think that's his nature. I think he's a very selfless person. He's not a me first guy, and so with a bunch of new guys and just his tendencies to let the game come to him, I think he was sitting back too much. There are times where a good player can try to be a good leader, and they want to lead by putting the ball in other people's hands and not taking as many shots. But whereas sometimes leaders need to just step up and take control. And I think he learned that fairly quickly. Buzz got in his ear. He even mentioned it, that Buzz had told me, hey, I've got to get after it more. They need more from me. And so now you're seeing more from him. I don't think what you saw in the last game is what you're going to see every single night. But, hey, if he can give us a portion of that on a nightly basis, A&M is going to win a lot of ball games.
And you're going into that game at 4-7, and you're 10-point dogs at home, probably going to be 4-8. What do they do in this final month before signing day? And then they come out, they win the game, a lot of it behind your star player, Devon Achane, who widely known, widely popular, widely respected, not only amongst his current teammates, but around the city of Houston as well.
Yeah.
And you do it behind Connor Wigman and Evan Stewart, and Donovan Green catches a touchdown pass. And so, and I don't know if you noticed this. I certainly did on the opening kickoff. One side of the entire kickoff formation was all true freshmen. We saw more Theo Orstrom on special teams than we ever have. So we saw more Malik Silla. And I thought Malik played really good in the game when he was in there. Martrell Harris playing more and more. So even the guys that were down that 2022 freshman class list, in terms of what we've seen so far this year, playing time-wise, they started playing more toward the end. And so, you win the game. And then you look at – did you notice that the pregame graphic from Aggie football and the one that all the kids were tweeting out that got invited to the game, did you notice who it had on there?
All freshmen.
It was all freshmen.
Yep.
So that's clearly part of the messaging that's going out from Bright right now. So that game was actually very, very important that you won. And I know there's been a huge topic of conversation about rushing the field. They're college kids that are having fun. Who gives a crap?
Yep.
And I know it cost A&M some money. They got plenty. I'm not saying you do it every time you win a home game. But, man, after all the frustration of the season and after as arrogant and cocky as the LSU fan base was coming in, that felt good.
It felt great.
It felt good coming out of Kyle Field. And not only felt good for guys like me and you and the fans, but it felt good for the recruits. It felt good for DJ Hicks. It felt good for Damian Sanford. It felt good for the 2024s that came in, for Ashton Funk, who's committed, for DeBron Gatling, who's a top target of yours at receiver out of the state of Georgia, set to make a commitment next month. It felt good for a quarterback named Aaron Noland out of Georgia that I think Hal just sent in an interview that should be out on the site here in a little bit. He's one of the top 2024 quarterbacks in the country. That was an impressive atmosphere by the 12th man. Like, that was Kyle Field almost at its best. At its best was Alabama last year, you know. But that was Kyle Field as just about as good as it could be against a rival with a lot of commonality on the roster, right? A lot of the kids that were playing for LSU, if you follow A&M recruiting, you at least knew their names.
Yep.
And I'm not just talking about Harold Perkins. There's a bunch of them, right? So I thought the win was enormous. The responses that we got from all those kids whenever we reached out and said, hey, give me a few sentences about what you thought of Kyle Field. Electric, outrageous, amazing, unlike anything I've ever seen. Like, those were the consistent responses we were getting. That's what we were getting last year after Alabama, after Auburn. And you saw kind of the momentum they rode with those atmospheres, because when that place across the street is full and engaged in a night game atmosphere, there ain't anywhere better to sell in the country.
You're right.
And so they've got to they finally got something to grab onto, David. They've got a little bit of steak that they can eat, right? You got to go sell that sucker now.
Yeah.
And you got to use that momentum. I've heard nothing but great things about what they did with DJ Hicks. I've heard nothing but great things about what they did with Damian Sanford. Both of those were coming off of visits to Oregon, Oklahoma, respectively. I think they're both pretty much locked in. I think I'm going to go down there to the school to talk to them in person. Everything I've heard has been nothing but really, really good. So those are just two of the many that were there. I think you have set yourself up with some of your really, really top guys in 2024. Draylon Miller, loved his experience, and he's been a fan of A&M for a while. He might be – the way that Peyton Bowen is playing in the class of 2023, we may be moving Peyton Bowen to the number one spot in the state. I mean, he's just been off the charts good. Draylon Miller has been sort of that way in 2024. Like, just how are you going to watch what he's done on tape and not move him at least into your top 5 in the state? So
You can go ahead and take a sip and finish the show if you want. What are people supposed to do?
Like, comment, subscribe.
And also, can we throw in a new one?
What?
Oh, what was the other one? You were
I was going to say comment happy birthday. But
Yeah, please do that. But also, you can sign up for alerts, right?
Really?
I saw somebody else's video and sign up for alerts so you never miss a
can
video.
click the
So
little-
not just subscribe, but like the alert thing.
I actually think I have that turned on because I don't know, I'd have to get notifications.
It'll mean a lot more.
The little
from you.
bell.
Tell them to do it.
The little bell you see down there, click it.
What if it's up there?
I think it's down there. I think. We'll find out.
See you next time.